She called me at 3 a.m. My card declined at the club. Send me $2,000 right now or they won't let us leave. I replied, call your dad. Then I turned off my phone and went back to sleep. The call I got from the police station the next morning. Let me get straight to it because this story is insane. Going to try to keep it short, but there's a lot to unpack here. I'm 30M, engaged to Tiffany, 27F, for 8 months now. We don't live together yet because I wanted to make sure we were compatible before signing a lease. Smart decision, as it turns out. She lives in an apartment with 2 roommates about 20 minutes from my place. Background on Tiffany. Comes from money but got cut off by her parents 2 years ago for reasons she's always vague about. Claims they're controlling and don't understand her independence. Works at a marketing firm making maybe $40K but spends like she makes $100K. Always dressed perfect, designer bags, expensive dinners, you know the type. We'd been having problems about money for months. She expected me to pick up tabs for everything because that's what boyfriends do, but I'm not made of cash. I work in commercial HVAC making decent money, but I'm not funding someone else's luxury lifestyle. Made that clear from day one. The real issues started when her friends got involved. This group of 4 girls from college who all married rich guys and spend their days shopping and posting Instagram stories from expensive restaurants. They constantly pressure Tiffany to keep up with their lifestyle even though her situation is completely different. These friends are toxic as hell. Always suggesting expensive weekend trips to wine country or Vegas that cost thousands per person. When Tiffany can't afford it, they make snide comments about her budget lifestyle and how sad it is that she has to work for a living. I told Tiffany multiple times that these women weren't real friends. Real friends don't pressure you to spend money you don't have just to fit in with their crowd. But she was desperate to maintain her social status, even if it meant going into debt. 3 weeks ago, Tiffany's friend Madison got engaged to some investment banker. They threw an engagement party at this upscale venue downtown with an open bar and fancy catering. The kind of party that costs more than most people's cars. At the party, I watched these women compete over who had the most expensive dress, the biggest engagement ring, the most exclusive vacation plans. It was disgusting watching grown adults act like teenagers trying to impress each other with daddy's money. Tiffany was miserable the whole night. She'd borrowed a dress from her roommate and felt underdressed compared to her friends' designer outfits. Kept making comments about how lucky Madison was to find a man who could provide that kind of lifestyle. That's when I knew our relationship was in trouble. She wasn't looking at me as a partner, she was evaluating my earning potential against her friends' husbands. I wasn't a person to her, I was a bank account with a pulse. The week after the engagement party, Tiffany started dropping hints about wanting a bigger ring. Mine was a modest 1 carat from K Jewelers, but apparently that wasn't impressive enough for her social circle. She showed me pictures of Madison's 3 carat Tiffany setting that probably cost 50 grand. I shut that conversation down immediately. Told her we'd already discussed our budget and expectations. That if she wanted to compete with trust fund babies, she should have thought about that before getting engaged to a working-class guy. She got defensive, saying she wasn't trying to compete with anyone. Just wanted to feel special on her wedding day, like any bride would. But I'd heard her on phone calls with her friends, complaining about my cheap ring and how embarrassed she was to show it off. 2 weeks ago, Tiffany informed me she was planning a bachelorette party in Miami. Not asking me about it or discussing the budget, just announcing that she'd already started making arrangements with her friends. The cost was going to be around $3,000 per person for flights, hotels, dinners, and clubs. I laughed and asked where she thought that money was coming from. She said her friends were all pitching in, and she expected me to cover her portion as an engagement gift. $6,000 total, because she wanted to bring her sister along too. That's where I drew the line. $6,000 for a weekend of partying while we were supposed to be saving for a wedding. I told her absolutely not, and if she wanted to go to Miami, she could figure out how to pay for it herself. The fight that followed was epic. Tiffany accused me of being controlling and unsupportive. Said any man who really loved his fiancée would want her to have fun with her friends. That I was embarrassing her by making her look poor compared to the other girls. I reminded her that we'd talked about financial compatibility before getting engaged. That I wasn't going to bankrupt myself trying to keep up with people who had family money. She could choose between the Miami trip and having a fiancé, because I wasn't funding both. She stormed out and didn't speak to me for 3 days. During that time, she stayed at her friend Charlotte's house, and they plotted how she could still make the Miami trip happen. When she finally came back, she announced she'd found a solution. Tiffany's dad had agreed to pay for the trip if she promised to be more responsible with money going forward. I was suspicious because she'd told me her parents cut her off completely, but she insisted they were willing to help with special occasions. The Miami trip was planned for last weekend, Thursday through Sunday at some 5-star resort in South Beach. I wasn't thrilled about it, but figured if her dad was paying, then it wasn't my problem. At least, she'd get it out of her system, and we could focus on real wedding planning. Thursday morning, Tiffany left for the airport with 2 giant suitcases and a carry-on full of makeup and jewelry. She was more excited than I'd seen her in months. Kept posting stories about pre-trip mimosas and first-class seats that definitely weren't in her original budget. The red flag started immediately. Thursday night, she posted videos from dinner at some restaurant where appetizers cost $60. Friday was poolside cabanas that rent for $500 a day. Saturday was shopping on Lincoln Road, with bags from stores I knew she couldn't afford. I didn't say anything because technically it wasn't my money being spent. But something felt off about the whole situation. Either her dad was being way more generous than she'd let on, or she was running up debt that would become my problem after we got married. Friday night around midnight, I got a drunk text from Tiffany. Picture of her and the girls at some rooftop club with bottle service. The kind of setup that costs thousands of dollars for a table. She looked happy, but I was starting to worry about where all this money was coming from. Saturday was more of the same. Expensive lunches, yacht rentals, designer shopping sprees. Her Instagram looked like a millionaire's lifestyle blog. Either her father had won the lottery or Tiffany was living in a fantasy world that was going to crash down hard. Saturday night around 2 a.m., my phone started buzzing. Multiple missed calls from Tiffany, followed by increasingly frantic texts. I was asleep and my phone was on silent, so I didn't see any of it until the next morning. Then at exactly 3:17 a.m., my phone rang. Tiffany's name on the caller ID and background noise that sounded like a nightclub. I answered groggily, thinking maybe there was an emergency. "Baby, thank God you answered," she yelled over the music. "I need you to send me money right now." I was instantly awake. "What are you talking about? What's wrong?" My card declined at the club. We ran up this huge tab and security took our IDs. "They're calling the police if we can't pay right now. I need you to send me $2,000 or we're going to get arrested." I sat up in bed trying to process what she was telling me. "What do you mean your card declined? I thought your dad was paying for this trip." "He gave me money for the hotel and flights, but we've been spending more than expected. My credit cards are maxed out and the girls don't have enough cash to cover the tab. You have to help me." That's when it clicked. There never was money from her dad. She'd been financing this entire trip on credit cards, and now reality was catching up. The fancy dinners, the shopping, the bottle service, all of it was debt she'd been accumulating. "How much is the tab?" I asked. $8,000, but they said they'd settle for $6 if we pay cash tonight. "Please, baby, you have to help us. Security won't give us our IDs back and I'm scared." $8,000 for one night at a club. I couldn't even comprehend spending that kind of money on alcohol. But what really got me was her assumption that I would just wire her thousands of dollars at 3 a.m. to clean up her mess. "Call your dad," I said calmly. "What? I told you he already helped with the trip. I can't ask him for more money. Please just send me what you can and I'll figure out the rest. You lied about your dad paying for anything, didn't you? This whole trip has been on credit cards, and now you're stuck with a bill you can't pay." Silence on her end, except for the club music in the background. Then she started crying. Please don't do this to me. I made a mistake, but I need help right now. We can talk about everything else later. That's when I made the decision that probably saved my financial future. Call your dad, I repeated. If he has money for your lifestyle, then he has money to get you out of this mess. I'm not your ATM. You can't be serious. I'm your fiancé. When someone you love is in trouble, you help them. When someone you love lies to you about money and runs up thousands in debt behind your back, you learn who they really are. Figure it out yourself. I hung up and turned off my phone, went back to sleep and didn't think about it again until morning. Around 9 a.m. my phone started buzzing the moment I turned it on. Dozens of missed calls from Tiffany, plus calls from numbers I didn't recognize. Voicemails that I deleted without listening, text messages that got increasingly desperate as the night went on. Then around 11 a.m., I got a call from a Miami area code that I almost didn't answer. But something told me I should take it. Is this Jacob Morrison? Speaking. This is Sergeant Rodriguez with Miami Beach Police Department. We have your fiancée Tiffany Walsh in custody and she asked us to contact you. My heart sank. Despite everything, I didn't want her to actually get arrested. What are the charges? Theft of services and disorderly conduct. She and 3 other women racked up a substantial bill at a nightclub last night and couldn't pay. When police arrived to investigate, your fiancé became belligerent and resisted when officers tried to arrest her. I rubbed my temples trying to process this information. Is she okay? She's fine physically, spent the night in county lockup and will be released this morning if someone can post her bail. She insisted we call you to arrange payment and pick up. How much is the bail? $1,000 cash or bond. The club is also still seeking restitution for their losses, which we understand totaled over $8,000. So she still owed the money that started this whole mess, plus now had bail and legal fees on top of it. Her fun weekend in Miami was turning into a financial catastrophe that could follow her for years. Officer, I appreciate you calling, but I'm not in Miami and won't be posting bail or covering any costs related to this incident. She'll need to contact her family or friends for assistance. Long pause on the other end. Sir, are you sure? She was very insistent that you would handle the situation. I'm sure. She created this mess with her own choices, and she can figure out how to clean it up. After I hung up, I sat there thinking about how we'd gotten to this point. 9 months ago, I thought I was engaged to someone responsible and mature. Now she was sitting in a Miami jail cell because she couldn't control her spending or face reality about her financial situation. The next few hours were wild. Tiffany's friends started calling me, demanding I bail her out. Charlotte screamed at me for abandoning my fiancé in her time of need. Madison accused me of being controlling and emotionally abusive. Sarah said I was ruining their friendship by letting Tiffany suffer. I told each of them the same thing. If they were such good friends, they could pool their trust fund money and help her out. After all, they were the ones who pressured her to take this trip in the first place. My wallet wasn't responsible for their poor decisions. Around 3 p.m., I got a call from a number I didn't recognize. Tiffany's father, who I'd only met twice during our entire relationship. He was calling from the airport on his way to Miami to deal with the situation. We need to talk, he said without introduction. About what, Mr. Walsh? About the fact that my daughter is sitting in jail because her fiancé refused to help her in an emergency. I almost laughed. An emergency she created by lying about having money for a trip she couldn't afford. Your daughter has a problem with financial responsibility, and I'm not enabling it anymore. She made a mistake, but that doesn't mean you abandon her when she needs help. What kind of man leaves his fiancé stranded? The kind who recognizes that constantly bailing someone out of their bad decisions doesn't help them learn to make better ones. Did you know she told me you were paying for this trip? Silence on his end. Then a sigh. We haven't given Tiffany money in over 2 years. She burned through her trust fund in 6 months and expected us to keep funding her lifestyle indefinitely. That confirmed what I'd suspected. So she lied to me about everything. The trip, the shopping, the restaurants, all of it was on credit cards she can't pay off. Probably. Look, I'm going to handle the bail and legal fees because she's my daughter. But I think you should know that Tiffany owes roughly $40,000 on various credit cards. This Miami trip probably added another $15,000 to $20,000 to that total. My stomach dropped. $60,000 in credit card debt that she'd been hiding from me. If we'd gotten married, I could have been on the hook for future spending, and her inability to contribute financially would have been my burden. She'd been planning to dump her financial problems on me without my knowledge. Why are you telling me this? Because you seem like a decent guy who deserves to know what he's getting into. Tiffany has always had a problem with money and consequences. We tried to teach her responsibility by cutting her off, but it looks like she just found other ways to fund her spending. After we hung up, I sat there thinking about our entire relationship. How many times had she suggested expensive restaurants and expected me to pay? How often had she bought things she claimed were on sale, but probably went on credit cards? How much debt was she planning to bring into our marriage? That evening, Tiffany called from the airport. Her dad had bailed her out and they were flying back together. She was crying and apologizing, saying she knew she'd messed up, but we could work through it together. I let her talk for about 5 minutes, then cut her off. It's over, Tiffany. What do you mean it's over? I said I was sorry. I know I made mistakes, but people in relationships help each other through difficult times. People in relationships are honest with each other. You've been lying about money for months while racking up debt that would have become my responsibility after marriage. That's not a mistake, it's fraud. You can't break up with me over this. I was scared and desperate. The girls were all spending money, and I didn't want to look poor in front of them. You know how important their friendship is to me. More important than honesty in our relationship, apparently. More important than financial responsibility or planning for our future. You chose to impress people who don't actually care about you over building something real with someone who did. She begged and pleaded for another chance. Promised she'd cut up the credit cards and get financial counseling. Said she'd never lie to me again and would do whatever it took to earn back my trust. But trust isn't something you can just repair with promises after it's been shattered this completely. I'm done, Tiffany. Don't contact me anymore. I blocked her number and spent the rest of the evening taking down pictures and boxing up things she'd left at my place. The engagement was over and I felt lighter than I had in months. The next morning, Tiffany showed up at my door with swollen eyes and yesterday's clothes. She'd driven straight from the airport to try one more time to salvage our relationship. Please don't throw away everything we built over one stupid weekend. I love you, and I know you love me. We can work through this if you just give me a chance. I handed her the box of her belongings. I don't love who you've become. The person I fell for was honest and responsible. You've been lying about money while secretly planning to make me responsible for your debt. That's not love. That's manipulation. Everyone makes mistakes. You're being cruel and heartless. How can you throw away our future over money? I'm not throwing it away over money. I'm ending it because you've shown me that you don't share my values. You care more about appearances and social status than honesty and responsibility. We're not compatible, and we never were. She stood on my porch crying and begging for another chance, but I closed the door. Sometimes you have to make hard decisions to protect your future, even when it hurts in the moment. Update since this blew up. Tiffany's been trying to contact me through mutual friends for the past week. She's apparently in credit counseling and wants to prove she's changed. Her friends are still harassing me on social media, calling me heartless for abandoning her. Found out from her roommate that she owes closer to $70,000 total when you include the Miami trip charges. Her dad hired a lawyer to negotiate down the club bill, but she still owes around $12,000 for that weekend alone. She moved back in with her parents because she can't afford rent anymore. Lost her job because she called out sick for 3 days after getting back from Miami without explanation. My family thinks I made the right choice. Her family is split between being mad at me and being relieved that I won't be taking on her financial problems. I'm focusing on myself and my career now. Looking into buying a house, since I don't have to worry about someone else's debt anymore. Dodged a massive bullet. and learned to trust my instincts about people's character. For anyone dealing with something similar, pay attention to how your partner handles money and stress. Those traits don't magically improve after marriage, they get worse when there are legal protections, making it harder to leave. 3 months ago, I thought I was planning a wedding. Now, I'm planning a life where I don't have to worry about someone else's poor decisions bankrupting me. Sometimes the worst things that happen to you turn out to be the best things that could have happened.